Hey everyone! We thought we would give you a little bit of an update. We left a little bit of a cliffhanger on our last video. And if you haven't watched day 7 of our Camino journey, there's a link up top here. So go watch that and then come back to watch this video. So those of you who have watched day 7, you'll kind of know that a little bit of what happened. And in this video, we're gonna give you an update of exactly what transpired that day. Our plan for day 7 was to walk the 20 kilometers to I think it's Minde, and then followed by the next day would be our final 15 kilometers into Fatima. And then we were going to take a rest day following that in Fatima so that we could see the sights. So we left, and of course, like every town on the Camino, it's a climb out of the towns. And this one was a steep one. It just kept going and going and going. And so we kept climbing, and it was rough. It was hot. It just seemed to be a constant walk uphill. And Aurora was having trouble because her blisters were massive and they were multiplying because she was walking a little bit wonky, trying to alleviate the pain from the blisters she had. She was getting more blisters. So we were having trouble. That day, it was a Monday, there wasn't very many cafes and stuff that were open that day, so we were having trouble finding rest places and places to get out of the heat in the sun. So we just kept trudging along, stopping when we could, and till we got to, I think we stopped in Monsanto, had a coffee, a little bit of a rest, and then we tried to continue on. I was worried the whole time that, and I was prepared that we might have to take a taxi. Didn't know exactly when we'd have to take a taxi, but we kept walking on. So we got to Monsanto, kept walking, because we knew at that point we didn't have far from Monsanto to Minde to go. So we got to Minde, and at that point it was just not doable. So we got to the cafe and we had them call us a taxi. She wasn't happy about that, but we called a taxi. Came about 10 minutes later, and 20 minutes after that, we were checking into our hotel. Luckily, I had already planned to stay the extra days in like that next day and then the following day in Fatima. So we just booked the same hotel. So we were planning to do Fatima for 3 days. That was our plan, 3 days in Fatima. The day walking in and a rest day. So now we were adding the taxi day in and 2 rest days. So this is where things went from bad to worse. And I'm gonna let Aurora tell this part of the story.
After a few hours of relaxing at the hotel, I had a seizure and I hit my head and had to take the ambulance to the hospital in the town next to us, which was about 20 minutes away or so. And yeah, I was in the hospital for around 9 hours or so, and it was a really rough experience. It was not recommended.
It was very different from what she would have experienced in Canada.
Yeah.
It's just different. We were not prepared for that, for what service we got. Not that it was bad service, it was just very different from what we get in Canada.
Well, I was also not really allowed, they didn't give me any medication for any of the pain, so that wasn't great.
And she couldn't sleep. And usually after she has epilepsy, which I don't know if we've mentioned that at all in our travels. So after she has a seizure, you usually sleep for like 10-12 hours. But in the hospital, she was in a room with about 7,500 people, and there was no sleeping allowed. She couldn't sleep. So it made it tough for her, I think, to get through that.
Yeah. I was about a foot away from the people next to me.
Yeah, their beds
So-
were all squished together and there was no room to walk.
Yeah, so I wasn't getting any food either, and she was not allowed in to be with me in, like,
Yeah.
well, hospital room.
Yeah.
Would you call it that?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
The ER. I don't know what
ER.
you call what that
So-
was.
She had to wait in the
Waiting room.
waiting room for the whole 9 hours. And after that, we kind of just went back to the hotel. And then I slept a lot.
Yeah, she slept pretty well the whole next day.
Yeah.
We got up, got some food, some supper the next night, and I think you went back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And we were worried about her head. She had almost a big bump and hit it on a corner
Mm-hmm.
when she had fallen when she had her seizure, and she hurt her shoulder. So we were really worried about the bump on her head, and so that's why the hotel called an ambulance, because I went and I was talking to them about it, and so they called an ambulance for us, and they came and took her in, and about 9-10 hours later, we were back at the hotel and sleeping, because we were both very tired at that point.
Yeah.
But the bump in the head's gone down. We're all good. So now that Aurora's recovered, we've decided to change our Camino a little bit. We're going to shorten it. Our plan is to take a bus now from Fatima to Porto and continue our Camino out of Porto. You might be wondering why we don't just continue from Fatima, and that's my choice, not hers. She's upset. It's my feeling that out of Porto, there's way more pilgrims and communities that are familiar with pilgrim needs. So I just feel as though support might be more available if something were to happen to her again on the trail, if she were to have another seizure on the trail. So I made the call that we're going to Porto and continuing out of Porto to Santiago. Not sure, Aurora's not overly happy about that, but that's our plan. So we're gonna head to Porto, and that'll shorten our trip by about probably, I don't know, 2 weeks or so. I'm not sure. We also decided that we would try to stay in hotels and hostels as opposed to albergues, and that is because we would have our own room with our own bathroom, and Aurora would be able to have better sleeps at night. Albergues are just loud, and you share a bathroom, and I think just for comfort and for her health, we're just going to sort of switch from albergues to hostels and hotels with private rooms. Not sure if that's always going to be available to us, but that's our goal, is to try to do that. So now that Aurora's feeling better, we're going to head out and to see the sanctuary and the basilica here in Fatima and see some of the sights and try to get some food.
Yeah.
Always looking for food.
Always food.
Always food's always important. We haven't been eating very well because our hotel doesn't have any restaurants really close, so we're kind of running out at weird times to try to find food.
Yeah.
But we want to say thanks for joining us along on our first 7 days of our Camino, and we hope that you continue coming along with us on our way to Santiago. We'll make it. We'll make it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.